Hi, guys. Welcome to Enlightened Awakening. Today I have Jenna Ewing on the show. She is an astrologer and a coach, an astrology coach. We're going to talk about all the things, talk about how you can link up with her. And she's also going to do a reading on me today. So it's going to be really interesting. So, first, I'm going to start by saying, in order to live our life purpose, first we need to understand who we are. We need to know our strengths and our weaknesses to navigate our life and live it to the fullest, helping ourselves and everyone else who crosses our paths. And one of the ways that we do that is to have our birth chart drawn up. Um, I know I haven't met a person yet who's had their chart done and doesn't look at it and go, "Oh my gosh, yes, that's why I do this. That's why I do that." That makes so much sense.
Yeah, it's
So,
wild.
so tell us about your website and what you offer in your coaching program.
Thank you. Firstly, thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited to be
Yes,
here.
thank you for being here.
Um, I so I guess taking it right back to the beginning, really, of like why I'm sat in front of you is that it was only just over 3 years ago that I actually had my birth chart read for the first time, and I actually I've always been intrigued by astrology. Like most people, I knew what my star sign was or my sun sign, but that was about it. So going into that birth chart reading, I was very intuitively, I just was really drawn to it, and I knew there was something in it for me. And but that exactly what you just said. After I had my birth chart read, it was like the catalyst to my life doing a complete 180 and me having the most transformational, like mind blown, like the lights coming back on, like inside of me, and the soul of me really getting back on the path I'm meant to be on this lifetime. And that's why now, like, I am an astrology coach, but actually, I think the more I lean into my spiritual gifts, I realize I'm actually more of a soul guide who's really passionate about astrology, because I've really like lived and breathed, and I've kind of seen the personal transformation of what knowing your birth chart, which is this unique astrological map of you, like the power of knowing that is, and I just feel compelled to just tell everyone about it. Like, I just want to shout it from the rooftops, because it is just, it's the greatest like self-discovery tool, and it's something that you can just keep coming back to over and over again, because as we grow and we shed layers of ourselves and we become more of who we're meant to be this lifetime, you can use your birth chart as this anchor for yourself. And more unlocks as you grow, more things unlock in your birth chart is what I've been finding anyway.
Yeah, I feel like I've been telling people this for years before I even realized how true the statement probably was. But I feel like our life is like we're away at like college, like this is college campus Earth or something. We're like at school,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
the
yeah.
personality traits that we have are kind of like the books and the tools that we need to be able to study the courses that we signed up for.
I love that. Yes, yes. Um, yeah, and I just, I had no idea that I even had a moon sign. And going into the birth chart reading, yes, I knew I had I was a Leo sun, but I also completely rejected that. Like, I also felt like that's not me at all. So at that point, I was very lost, and like there was something obviously deep inside of me that was drawing me, like, longing me to kind of get this information. But yeah, very closed off from my Leo sun. Didn't even realize I had a Scorpio moon, which is now that's my like name on Instagram, like Scorpio moon coach. It's the on my website and everything, because that Scorpio moon is so like such a pivotal part of what makes me me. And I just couldn't, this woman just completely blew my mind. Not this woman, this very talented astrologer completely blew my mind, because she was describing this like inner world of me that I was like, I only met you like 20 minutes ago. Like, how are you describing my like internal like world and my feelings and my emotions, and how I deeply crave like intimacy and like deep conversations, and how I really deeply need to express the depth of my emotions with people, and why I feel lost, because I'm not getting that anywhere in my life at the moment, which is why I feel so lost, because I've been following this traditional path of what we're told is right, but I feel empty. And then she started talking to me about what my moon was, and I was like, oh my God.
Is your moon sign and your rising sign the same thing?
No. So your moon is, so your sun for me is very much what makes you like, lights you up. It's like, it's why it's like a real key part of your personality, because it's what makes you all shiny and bright and magnetic. So you have a Gemini sun, and it's conjunct Mercury. So you using your voice, you telling stories. I mean, we chatted for about 20 minutes before, didn't we? You were telling me your stories, and you were like really in your element and smiling and all like, because that's, you're like, ooh. And also it's like you have a Gemini sun, that's communication, conjunct Mercury, which is the planet that rules Gemini, and it's in your third house, which is the communication house. So it's like boom, boom, boom. It's like, it's, yeah. So yeah, your
Communicating is
son,
my favorite thing. And
yes, being a
people.
storyteller, and people, and sharing ideas, and the back and forth, and the social element of it, so that's your sun sign, like how you shine, light you up. Your moon is this inner world. It's like what you need to feel nurtured, really. It's kind of a bit of an inner child kind of vibe. It's like the internal, it's something that you wouldn't necessarily show to someone until you really, we don't reveal that to people until we really love and trust them, right? So
Yeah.
and but it's, I think as children, we can reveal our moon signs, because we don't, when we're young, we don't really mask, right? But then we quickly learn how to be like, oh no, that's not acceptable, push that part down, hide that part.
Some of us
But
take
yeah,
longer to learn that than others.
yes. But your moon is this internal part of you. Your rising sign, so you're Aries moon and Aries rising. Your
Oh.
rising sign, yeah, you're double.
Ooh.
Aries is sorry, not Aries, rising. There's kind of, when I first like started learning about this, rising sign really does symbolize how other people see you. Like, it's kind of like your social mask. So when you kind of show up, you might present it's quite that in an Aries way. So potentially a bit kind of bold and direct, and kind of quite fearless, and in like action taker. But it's also that rising sign is also, because it's on your ascendant in your birth chart, your rising sign is also who you're ascending to become. So you're really like, this lifetime, the soul of you is really asking you to like really embody that Aries energy, which is also leadership. It's being a trailblazer, it's doing things before they've been done, and
So
not kind
your
of looking in like
rising
this
sign,
way.
this is an easy way to remember. Your rising sign is what you are rising to the occasion of being. Your moon
Mm-hmm.
sign is kind of at night. So that's the kind that you kind of keep guarded and
Yeah.
protected,
Yeah.
right? Your
Yeah,
sun sign is
exactly.
out in the day, and that's the
Yes.
core of who you are, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And what kind of makes you feel, yeah, really like, oh, like light and like shiny. It's like what makes you magnetic. And like I said, when I had my birth chart read for the first time, I was like, no, I don't feel like a Leo at all. Leo is like, I'm here, look at me, like I need to express myself. And like now I feel more like me than ever before, because I've really started to embody over the last few years, really embodying what Leo is to me and within my birth chart, which is, and actually Leo is, my sun is in my first house, and your first house is all about self. And so for me, it's like the more I kind of pour into my self growth and development and peeling back the layers of actually what makes me me, the happier I become. um and I was just like, no, I don't want any attention. I've kind of, I'm more in the Cancer kind of, my rising sign is Cancer, so I can be like, how is everyone, is everybody else okay? Like, I'll literally put, I'll martyr myself and just pour all of my energy into everybody else, and not, don't worry about me. i don't
That's
i
two
don't need
things.
any
That's being a
attention or.
woman, and that's also the Cancer. The Cancer is the
Mm.
homebody, the nurturer, the behind closed
Yeah,
doors.
and also, I have two young daughters, so they're about to turn 7 and 4. But at the time, they were 3 and like 6 months old, and I was very lost in motherhood. Like, I found motherhood almost like it was another place for me to hide and to distract myself, actually, from how um like often empty I was feeling. But I kind of, because I was so distracted and pouring my attention into other things and becoming like the perfect mum and all of that, I didn't quite realize that I didn't feel actually great. I didn't feel fulfilled. Like, and I think it's because the soul of me was like, we've got things to do, and you're
Yeah.
not, you're really off your path right now in terms of like what your purpose is and what you're here to grow towards.
I feel like that's common for a lot of women, moms in particular, is, you can't when we're continuously being self-sacrificial and taking care of other people, you can't, it's hard for us we come to the realization at some point that you can't pour into other people's cups if yours is empty.
Oh my God, have I learned that lesson time and time again?
I mean, I understand completely what you're saying. I used to feel bad if I would buy something for myself, because I'm
Mm,
like, everything I have should go to the kids. I was thinking, there was that voice in my head. You shouldn't buy anything for yourself, like, yeah, I
yeah.
totally understand that.
Um, like, how do you like get on with the Aries energy, like, within you? Like, do you kind of resonate with it? Like, having an Aries moon, your moon is in your first house as well. So it's,
Yeah.
of that
So
real self. And
here's the thing, and this is just what I noticed about myself naturally. I am perfectly fine with letting somebody else run the show and be in charge. But if I see that it's not going well and everything's chaotic, and it's like, then I just have this undying desire and need to kind of step up and take over.
to lead.
Yes. I'm perfectly happy to sit on the sidelines, but I feel
Hmm.
like I have to take over if it's chaotic. As a matter of fact, like, I try to control myself with that, because nobody likes some bossy person coming in and taking over. But like, at one point, I had my kids and my stepkids at a Halloween party for kids, and it was just chaotic. Kids were running all over the place, and I thought, oh great, I'm going to sit on the side, I'm going to be able to take a little break. And then my oldest daughter, was helping run the thing, and then she knows how good I am with kids, and I'm sitting there going, oh gosh, man, I thought I was going to get a break, but I know I can fix this. And my daughter came over to me and she's like, Mom, I'm like, I know what you're going to say. She's like, can you please? I'm like, fine. So then I just stepped in, took over. Everything was organized. The kids were all like, doing their thing. They were entertained and blah, blah, blah. And she was like, later, she was like, oh my God, everybody was coming up to me and like, is your mom a preschool teacher? And she's like, no, like, she needs to be.
Yeah, I just know how to take charge and just kind of get shit done.
Right, right. I will if I have to, but yeah.
You know, you've also got with all that Gemini energy as well. Just because I today I literally just did a masterclass on the astrology of 2025, because it's like, to say it's wild is like such an understatement, but like so many of the outer planets are like shifting zodiac sign, right? And you're just looking at your chart. So in, I think God, I want to say July, but the date's dropped out of my head. But in July, the planet Uranus is, which is, you know, this, you know, Uranus is the awakener, you know, your podcast, this rebellious planet, and it's moving from Taurus, which was in, you know, quite grounded, like kind of for that kind of like rebellious planet, is actually kind of quite earthy, slow moving energy, but it's moving into Gemini
Uh-oh.
in July, and I was like, oh, like all these things are going to start to be activated for you, like things I feel like even more is potentially going to get like come online for you. And that's because, you know, that I think it's been, I want to say it's been, God, I had all of this written down and then it just poof, it goes.
So
But I'm sure it's like
that's why I was saying, telling you that story, because, you know, the stepping up and taking charge and running the show is kind of like the Aries that I kind of keep on the back burner. But, you know,
mm,
so like I'm Gemini, I'm social, I'm happy to sit on the sidelines and just be part of the crowd. But sometimes I'm like, Miss Aries, come on, you're up. It's time to.
yeah. But for me, but like the Uranus coming in, that it's more like I felt like it's even more like that shift for everybody collectively is um the rebellion of authentic expression and communication, and realizing the power we have in honestly like speaking our truth. Like I feel like that's, you know, the more people that actually just spoke their truth, like even in like within their relationships or within their family dynamics, it's like, you know, that creates, you know, it's like Uranus helps like people to break free out of situations. Like it is, how freeing is it to speak your truth to someone? Like we're so taught to just, you know, bite your tongue, don't, you know, oh, you can't say that, or you know, you shouldn't say that. But I feel like this Uranus into Gemini is this activation point that we're all collectively going to get, and it's going to stay with us for like a good like decade, you know. And it's
That
going to be,
makes
but I just found it interesting because it's like going to be making its way through like your unique like chart, like activating like your sun and
That makes
Mercury and
so
what
much
have you.
sense. People are going to find themselves communicating their rebellious feelings a lot more, because Gemini being the sign of communication and then Uranus being the rebellious. I've been rebellious
Mm.
my whole life. I've been speaking my mind my whole life, and it's got me in a lot of trouble. But yeah, that makes
You
a
know, but
lot of sense.
and you have Uranus as well, like on your descendant line. So it's almost like you, that rebellious kind of how you interact with other people as well. Like made me think of that is like, and also the kind of people that you maybe attract into your life are quite potentially quite rebellious, or also maybe linked with like Aquarius energy of like, you know, we were chatting before and you were like, you know, my friend is like clairvoyant and this, it's like you kind of you attract like that energy, that kind of like out the box, different, you know, weirdly wonderful kind of like people, which obviously, you know, we love, but like society has taught us to be like, oh, that's not the norm, or like what we're used to. But that is like right on your descendant. And also you have and your north node, which is your soul's purpose in terms of like not necessarily career, but like your, you know, because when I first started, I really was just like, oh, your soul's purpose, it must be a job, it must be like your career type thing. But actually I realized it's more what your soul is just really wanting you to grow towards this lifetime, which is in Aquarius. So it's in that, you know, I see things differently. I think out of the box, and I'm going to challenge the status quo, and I'm going to ask, why are we doing this? Like, I'm going to challenge systems and rules and regulations. Like, my daughter is Aquarius sun and moon, and she questions everything. Like, she will not be told what to do. I mean, it's really quite hard.
Yeah, it's like I don't mind
But like,
doing
I love it.
I don't mind following directions if it makes sense. But if it doesn't make sense and it feels wrong, I'm going to be like, I don't think so.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But that Aquarius North Node for you is in the 11th house, which I have my North Node in the 11th house, which but that is community and tribe, and it's that, like, it's, the 11th house is linked with Aquarius energy, so it has that humanitarian, like, for the greater higher good of everyone, that kind of energy. And your North Node is conjunct Mars as well, which I love. So it's that Aries fiery energy of, like,
I'm not
I'm
afraid to
ready
do
to kind
battle.
of take. Yeah, I'm not ready to do battle 100%, but also I'm ready to take the reins at any point and lead. And but also, like, the other part of that Mars is like what you're passionate about, like your motivation, your drive for, the podcast is like, you're wanting to is this is here I is to awaken people, to enlighten people, to wake them up to, like, I'm
It's
sorry,
time.
trying to talk with my arms, and I'm realizing that we're on a podcast.
I feel like humanity is going through a massive shift and upgrade right now as a whole.
Oh my
And
god. Yeah.
there's been a few, there's been at least one off the top of my head, another time where I had kind of like an awakening, and that was right before I left my husband, but that was many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then the most recent one, which I feel like this happened to a lot of people, is when the pandemic shutdown happened. It felt like a wave. I was like, woof, and I was like, and then you're just stopping, like, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on here? This is crazy. Like, something big is happening, and it's like a little scary because you're in uncharted territory, but you don't want to think too negative, but you can't think positive because it's unknown, but it made a lot of people, I feel like a lot of people woke up then and
Mm,
reassessed everything. Like,
yeah.
wait a minute, do am I living in the place I want to live? Am I with the person I want to be with? Am I doing the job that I want? Like, whoa, it's time to wake up and get moving and stop just being
Mm,
a passenger on the bus,
yeah.
And that's why
Yeah.
I feel like this Uranus coming into Gemini is gonna move all that even more forward, because Gemini is communication and Uranus is like the voicing the rebellious, like, no, this isn't
Yeah.
working. I mean, you can even see that in the most recent. I mean, there were like, what, 50% of the countries on the planet went through an election recently. But,
Mm,
the United States, over here in the United States, it was massive,
yeah.
massive, just like, I mean, there was a lot of, there was a meme on X. It was so funny. It was like you could see all the popular votes on the shape of the country, and it was almost all red. And the person that posted it said, Trump got more coverage than Verizon. Can you hear us now? And the "can you hear us now?" I was like, wow, there are so many people that are like, this is not working. We are ready for change. Or we're going in a different direction. Like the collective. It's just like an
Mm,
example of the collective saying, we are all awake. We all see what's going on. We're ready to fix things. Let's go,
yeah.
you know? And I mean, I can only speak for what went on in my country, but were you seeing that like in a lot of other places?
I don't. Do you know what? I am not political. Like I don't. I literally was talking to someone about this the other day because I find I actually doing what I do and leaning, because there are lots of astrologers out there who kind of predict, or not even predict, but like they talk about how politically how things are going to shift. But I feel like my path with this is to help everybody, like is to help people awaken to their authenticity on a kind of a personal
Mhm.
level. So and I also find that when I don't watch the news,
Yeah.
and because like I struggle with it because I
Mhm.
want to be, it's not like I want to live my life in a bubble, because I know how many people are suffering in the world right now. But I also know that in a way, like part of me, I need to keep focused on what I'm doing at the moment,
Mhm.
which is waking people up, because I know that the more people that are awake, the more like change will happen. Like
Yeah.
it's, and so but I struggle with it, and it's
Yeah.
something that I have to kind of keep coming back to. And but
I tread very
yeah,
lightly with the news as well. I'm like, I might just catch a little glimpse, and I don't even really look at TV for news. I might just catch a glimpse here or a glimpse there, just so I kind of have a little light touch on what's going on. But it's like every time I do check it out, like I keep hearing, watching all these spiritual podcasts and stuff, how we're going through a massive change right now. We're going through a massive upgrade, and a lot of the old structures that are no longer working are crumbling and falling apart. Like, for example, Hollywood. Look what's going on with the whole Diddy stuff.
yeah,
So I look
yeah,
at that
yeah.
and I'm like, oh, that's another major horrible thing that's being dismantled and taken down.
Well,
Like,
that's all the Pluto and Capricorn, isn't it? That shift from Capricorn, which is power dynamics and structures and rules and regulations and all of these things that are meant to, you know, keep us small and trapped and predictable, and and then Pluto's just moved into Aquarius like in November, which we were just talking about Aquarius energy because it's linked to Uranus. It's like that Aquarius is like, it wants to free us, it wants us
yeah.
to like awake, it wants us to question why are we, but also the other side of it is Aquarius like wants us to own our authenticity, and that is within your birth chart, like bringing it back to like the importance of everybody just bit by bit, just like even just simply just knowing your big three to start with, just like starting to piece those pieces
The big
together.
three, like your sun
Yeah,
sign,
so,
moon sign.
sun, moon, and rising,
Okay.
and just start to get an awareness of that. It's like, the light kind of comes on you. You start to be like, hang on a second, I've got all of these layers and moving parts and these gifts that I have suppressed, or I didn't think that they were like, that I should be, that they weren't acceptable maybe when I was growing up, or like, and it's all these kind of experiences with a teacher or with a caregiver, whoever, who
Yeah.
shuts us down at a young age, and we think, oh, that's not, oh, okay, that's not acceptable, I'll hide that. And then we wake up and we're like, no, that was my superpower, like, being intuitive, or whatever it is. It's like, no, that's why I'm here,
I
actually.
must have a
Like,
really gangster spirit team because I never got with the program. Like, never got with the program. I'm like, I'm not subscribing to that. I don't care if you're the
yeah,
principal or my dad or whoever you are. No, I'm not. You know what I mean? So I got a lot of times I was like labeled you know, how people are labeled when they don't get with the program. And I always
Yeah.
just, I'm like, okay, you painting me that way is not going to make me change my mind. Sorry, not sorry.
Mm.
So, even as a kid, when you're like going against the grain like that can like really, like you said, it can make you really feel like, ugh, maybe I should rethink this. But that's why I said I think I have a gangster spirit team, because I always had that little voice in my head saying, "Nope, you're right. It's okay. You're going to be good. Don't worry about it." Blah blah blah. You know.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Like, do you sometimes do you like internally struggle with the thought of taking the lead or like leadership?
What do you mean struggle? Like, I should do
As
it,
it
but
No, like as in like I'm not. I want to say like I'm not kind of worthy of it, or I'm not kind of, it's
like
is it
imposter
like
syndrome.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, sometimes, sometimes, and then there's other times where I'm like, I really don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I know I'm going to rock at it. You know. I don't know.
Just like flying by the seat of your pants type thing. Like, yeah, it's
Here's
like the
my
ballsy. Like, I know I've got it.
I know what my strength is. Like, people ask me so many times, like, what do you love best about this? Like, what do you love best about real estate? What do you love best about podcasting? What do you love best about, this, that, and the other? And I'm like, my answer is always, oh my gosh, the people, like the connecting with the people, and like the helping people, the talking to people, the friends,
Mm.
it's always about the people for me, which, you know,
It's the story. It's like the storyteller element. It's like you want to tell your stories, but you want to hear people's stories.
yes. There's nothing I
Yeah.
like better than a good storyteller. Like I'm like this. The person of that started the real estate community that I'm in. Oh, he is such a great storyteller. I'm just like this. The
It's
whole
a real skill,
It really
isn't it? It's
is.
like, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
It is a
sometimes
real
I'll
skill.
tell stories to people while my kids are around. They're all grown now. But I'll be like, "Oh my gosh, when Sam was little, blah blah blah," and Sam will be say something like, "That's not how it happened." I'm like, "Shh, yes, it is." you know,
You got to embellish it a little
right?
bit.
Because I just make it, story worthy. That's
Oh
also how you
god.
remember things.
Hmm.
You commit them to memory when you tell the story so many times. You know.
Oh, wow.
So tell us about your website. What can folks find on the website?
So I all of my one-to-one packages. So I've kind of created these like soul journeys. So we kind of that range from like just the one-off reading, but to then go into like a 6-month journey where basically we meet up. It's all online,
Like
but
once a
we
week or
explore like twice a month
okay.
over a 6-month period, and we look at your chart and we just kind of go deeper and deeper and deeper into it. But it's not um me just reading your chart every time. It's like we have this back and we have this conversation basically. And what I've realized with my how I read charts now, which is it's really kind of evolved, is that during a conversation when I have the chart up in front of me, things it feel I mean it doesn't actually do this, but it feels like certain planets highlight themselves to me. Like they'll be
Ooh.
talking and then I'll be like, oh, I think that's what that means in that, and I think I'm able to interpret it that way. I think that's what's actually happening, because when I first started to read birth charts, I'd honestly have about like 7 to 8 pages of notes, and I would just be reading it out, line by line of like, so your sun is in this, and that's what it means, and blah 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 blah. Because my Chiron, which is like this it's your soul's wounding, really, is in Gemini actually. So it's really interesting that we're
Oh, there's a
having it's a real like the yin and yang of
so the
because
everybody's or mine?
so no, mine
Oh, okay.
my Chiron is in Gemini. No,
That's
yours
what a
definitely isn't
Chiron
in
is?
Gemini.
Chiron
Yeah, so
is your.
Chiron is like your soul's, it's a wounding point basically. It's, but from looking at your soul's wound, it's like that's where your healing comes from. So my Chiron is in Gemini. So I had a real fear of using my voice,
Oh.
and also a real, fear of, like, it's just the stories I would tell myself is that no one cares what you have to say, Jenna. Like, you're stupid, you're not articulate, you're boring, like, all of these things. Like, that's my wounding, is that actually me speaking to you now, like, there's always this kind of, and it's very quiet now, but it's still like, oh God, am I talking too much? This doesn't make sense. Like, that's my wounding. But the
Is it
more I lean into it,
automatically there, or does it come from some kind of trauma that happens in your childhood? The Chiron.
well, so my belief is that we chose all of the placements in our chart. So the soul of me chose to have a Chiron in Gemini. So, it could be that there are definitely some things that happened this lifetime, perhaps in my childhood, perhaps, as I grew, that I think have really contributed to that
Mm.
Chiron in Gemini. But I also feel like through past lives, I don't know that, but I just, for me, that's what it feels like to me, is like through past lives, it has contributed to that Chiron like energy. But I also certainly feel that the soul of me put that there for a reason, because it knows that there is so much healing to be had when I actually do use my voice. And the more I show up on podcasts to, speak my truth and share my interpretations and what I personally feel about astrology, it's like I get like so much healing from it, and it propels me forward. Like, it helps me grow, I think, as a soul. And that's why Chiron is there. That's why I didn't explain it earlier, but like, that's why I was asking about, sometimes do you like waver sometimes with like the feeling worthy element of like leadership, or like the feeling worthy of, because your Chiron is in Aries. And so I wondered if like there's something like within that. But I guess sometimes I just try to tread a bit lightly with the Chiron, because
Oh,
it
you can
is
speak
such a
direct
deep,
with me. I
yeah,
totally appreciate direct honesty, because I feel like anything else is a waste of time.
yeah.
Just, I had a
Like
friend one
Aries,
time, and
like,
he was like, I was like, I don't know why my ex-husband is treating me like this. And he's like, oh, yes, you do. And I'm like, oh, yeah. Why is he treating me like this? He's like, because you broke his heart. And I was like, oh, right. You're so right. That's how I handle brutal honesty. I face it right on. And I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you for telling me that, because it was right in front of my face and I didn't even see it until you said something. Right.
yeah,
But
um, yeah. So I can't remember what I was talking
well,
about
you were
now,
talking
but
about the
that
Chiron and
yes. Oh yeah. So, but what I was saying before was just that, yeah, when I take people through these like soul journeys, when I first started, it would just be loads and loads of notes, and I'd be reading from them, because my Chiron in Gemini would be like, oh God, I can't trust myself, like with what I'm saying and what I'm communicating. Whereas now I really realize that it's just a conversation. Like, I don't need to prepare. I just need to show up and tune into the person, and like intuitively, like I feel and see things like within the chart. And so we kind of go on that journey within like 6 months, and it feels like it is looking at birth chart, but it is also like it's for people that want soul guidance. Like, they just want someone to kind of walk beside them, really, as they're going through their, like,
kind of like
as,
having a tutor in school.
yeah, like it's a kind of, yeah, it's like a guide, like being a mentor type thing. It's not me being like, there's this and this is what it means, because, and this is the other thing I'm doing at the end of January, is I'm doing a course teaching people how to interpret their own birth chart, because the more I love looking at people's birth charts and doing that kind of the soul guide work, is like, it's something that's not going away. But I also feel so strongly that people, you know it's so important right now for people to get to grips with their own birth chart, because their interpretation of their birth chart is the most important one, not mine, like theirs. And but people just need to know these moving parts of like, right, let me just give you my knowledge about the zodiac signs and what the general energy of like those 12 zodiac signs is. Let me tell you what the houses mean, the planet, and let me just show you how I put it together. And then you can go off and forever have all of those tools, and then you can make your own interpretations, because your birth chart is something you put together. So I can like lean into what I intuitively kind of feel, but you're the only person that really knows like the true interpretation of your own birth chart. And that's why I'm just like, I'm putting it all together now in a course. And it's called You Are a Phenomenon, which I'm just like obsessed with the title.
Yes. Would it be fair to say that, doing this coaching session with you and bringing people's Chiron, for example, just one of the many things, bringing their Chiron to their attention, would help them like heal past wounds? So, like, for example, your Chiron, the thing that it could be the thing that's blocking you from everything that you want, need, and
Oh my God.
desire,
Yes. 100%.
like
Yeah, because
mindset, like your
yeah, yeah. Because so when one of the things we did talk about in that first birth chart reading was my Chiron, and it made such sense to me. And then after the reading, many months after, because I listened to it a few times after, like the light came on, but it was still like, it took a bit of time for that, all of what she said to me to like integrate and just like land. And but the Chiron and Gemini as well, like really stuck with me, because I was like, yeah, I don't, I feel so scared to use my, like, I feel so scared to just like have an opinion. Like I feel so scared to just be like down the pub with my friends, and I'm so worried that someone is going to ask what my opinion of something is. And like I could feel like, even like I get such anxiety and feel like sweaty palms and everything, like being even in a social situation, because I'd be so terrified that I was going to be put on the spot to use my voice. And that's where I was. And I was just like, oh my God, like, but so much in my birth chart is actually all about me really expressing what it is that I feel, and that like what I'm passionate about. Like I have a lot of placements in my fifth house, which for me it's a lot about self-expression. And also my north node is in the 11th house. It's, and it's, for me, it's like there's something there within community and tribe, and like sharing my voice on, in these bigger groups. Because now I teach workshops like in person, and I do like online workshops and things like that. And it's the Jenna of 3 years ago just could not have even comprehended like what I'm doing now. And it was like that Chiron and Gemini was such a block for me. And now I know I have an awareness that it's there, but I'm like, okay, I see you, but I'm still going to do the thing anyway, because I know that what's coming is lots of healing. So it's not like your Chiron ever goes away, but it's having the awareness of it, exactly like you said. It's like knowing that that block is there, like it helps unlock so much growth.
do you feel like you've overcome it?
No, it's
Like
and I
it's
don't,
always there?
I feel like, yeah, I feel like it's definitely quieter when I put myself in situations where I'm really kind of like, actually past my edges. I'm like fully out of my comfort zone. I feel like that's when the Chiron Gemini like really kind of rears up to kind of come back,
So I'm
like
the
hi,
queen
I'm
of
here.
analogies, right? Tell me if this sounds right. It's kind of like
Mhm.
dipping your toe in the pool, and when you first jump in it's really cold, but then after a while you get used to the water temperature. Is kind of like that.
Yeah, it's exactly
But
like
if you
that. And then
know that's the thing that's kind of blocking you, you can be like, excuse me. Yeah.
exactly, it's like it's the awareness, right? And this is so much of your birth chart. It's like you're getting awareness of all these moving parts that are completely unique to you. Because that's the other thing, when your birth chart is, because you need to know your time of birth. All those planets, it's very unique. to you, and it's so layered. Like, and you can just, it's not just your sun sign is in Leo. It's also what house it's in. It's also what planets are next to it. It's also like, how are the planets talking to each other? Like, what planet is current? What are the planets doing right now? Like, how are they activating your like Leo sun, for instance? It's like all of these other like angles, and you can just go deeper and deeper and deeper into it. But what I'm teaching, and you are a phenomenon, is the kind of the basics of it, so that you can just really get to grips with making those interpretations yourself and really getting comfortable with that. So then you can go, start the process of deepening it. But I just want everyone to start using their birth chart, and just I want it to just be like a like almost like the norm, that everybody knows like what their big three is. Like, they look at their birth chart to, as this self-discovery tool. Like, I just want that for everyone.
So, give me your opinion on this. Do you think it might be true that once you figure out what the hardest things are for you to overcome, those hardest things that you learn how to deal with and overcome, that's where your personal success and most growth will happen once you get past that? Does that make sense
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
I think everything that I've like ever traveled through, the kind of dark times, the adversities, the really challenging times, I think not necessarily in the moment, but it's always been a gift. There's always been like many lessons within that, and I think I now realize that everything is happening. Always everything is happening for me, not to me.
Right.
Is Yeah.
So
So,
now you're helping all these other people. You have this coaching thing. You're doing people's charts, and you're having all this success by getting past the fear of using your own voice. Is kind of
yes,
where I was
it's
going.
kind of wild.
Yeah. So, like, for
It's
example, with
wild to me.
if my Chiron was imposter syndrome or feeling worthy, right? So once if I'm able to get past that, on the other side of that is probably where my success will start to blossom. Do you feel like?
Well, it's like, but I think it's realizing that you are already successful. You're already doing the thing. Like, you're already like a podcast host with, like, you're already doing it. Like, do you know what I mean? You're already enlightening and awakening people, and you're already embodying your Gemini sun. And I just feel like it's about to kind of, it's about to, this year, I think it's gonna pick up momentum, I think, with Uranus like coming in and activating all of those things. But I do think just having an awareness that Aries like Chiron is there, and maybe how sometimes that might block you in certain situations, maybe as potentially as opportunities, or things come up where it's just like, maybe just feeling like, is that something I feel like, and it's just being mindful of the stories, I guess, that we sometimes tell ourselves when we're
Right.
put in those situations, just to be like, is it this because I'm feeling like I'm not good enough, or like I'm not capable of this, or I'm not worthy of this, or do you know what I mean? Just starting to be mindful, I guess, of the stories that kind of block you, and just
Yeah.
think, oh no, that's not for me.
And for anybody that's listening, no one person is better or worse than anybody else. So just if you feel like you're coming up against a block that you have, just remember, just ask yourself this question. If not you, then who? Right?
Love that.
I love it too. Okay. So if folks would like to get a hold of you, where can they go?
Come and find me on Instagram at Scorpio Moon Coach, or you can have a look at my website, which is www.scorpiomooncoach.co.uk.
Okay. Yeah, and you also have a YouTube channel, right?
I do, which is Scorpio Moon Coach, but it's I've I that's I think one of the things that I want to kind of pour more into, I think potentially this year, is getting that. There's lots of videos on there, but I haven't done anything for a while. Kind of been on like Instagram and doing the thing, and I think YouTube is the next place for me to pour some more energy
And
into, I think. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So when I was on your website, I saw it said you could like look at the coaching thing, but then there was also, I didn't really have a chance to click on it. So I was a little busy with work. It
Mhm.
said work with me. Does that mean have you coach them, or work with me? Does that mean you're like building a team of astrologers to work with
Oh,
you?
no, no, no. Work with me is oh, I love that idea.
Right.
Um,
I'm the queen of ideas.
um no, work with me is like the one-to-one offers. So it's like doing these soul journeys, but it's also actually, I should, if anyone's interested in there is a course on there called Connecting with Your Soulmate, which is this course I did end of last year, which is you're looking at your birth chart, and then you're also looking at your partner's birth chart, because I found that just looking at certain points, so like knowing each other's moon signs for a difference, for instance, sorry, is so key in understanding like the inner world of one another. Knowing your Mercury, like how the other communicates, because they can be so wildly different. And I think just it's not about compatibility, because I know that there are the rounds of astrology where you look at the synastry of people's charts and compatibility, but it's not done through that lens. It's like, let me look at my uniqueness and what makes me me, let me look at yours, and like let's accept each other for who they are, but like let's come to, I want to understand you, and I'm like, and you want to understand me, and like, do you know what I mean? It just kind
Yeah.
of, if there's but I've kind of tried to simplify it so it's just looking at your moon, Venus, Mercury, and Chiron. Like knowing each other's Chiron is just like so key, like within a relationship. And I feel like when you know these moving parts, it's like the intimacy, which I'm all about because I'm a Scorpio. I mean, it's like the depth of intimacy that you can create within a relationship is just next level when you're literally seeing the soul of someone. Um, it's partnership, isn't it? But
Hmm.
it's also, I think, like personally, I think when you come into a relationship as whole as possible, and not wanting that person to like complete you in any way, I think that's when you enter the realms of an actual partnership, because you're both showing up as a whole person, and just like you're choosing to be within that relationship, because you're not looking for that the partner to kind of fill any gaps within you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like,
I think I kind
and
of
I
know that, which is why, like, I've been single way more than I've ever been with somebody. And
mm,
it's like, I have a lot of married friends, and I've never felt bad or weird hanging out with like a whole bunch of married couples and I'm the only single person there. I had no problem with it. Like, I didn't even
yeah,
look at it like that, you know.
yeah.
But
Do you know what? So I got divorced March last year, and I was in a relationship for a while, but now, and I'm single now. But I am really entering this stage of like, I'm good. I'm actually really fucking good. Like I really now see the value in just pouring into myself. And I know that I'm not quite at that. I'm not done pouring into me yet. But it's just like, but it's also that I'm not settling for like anything like less than I deserve now. And that again is absolutely like wild for me to say. Like the old versions of Jenna are just like, who the hell are you? Like,
No, do you
what did
know
you just
what?
say?
I've heard this a couple different places recently. Women who live, actually, I heard this from Joe Dispenza.
I think I saw the same thing. Like
Women
they're just
who live alone live
yeah.
longer, and
Yeah,
because we're
I
so
saw the same
giving and
thing.
we're such caretakers. Married women live have a shorter lifespan. Yet
Mm.
married men live longer. Women who
Oh.
live alone not only live longer, but they're generally happier and they live a more fulfilling life, especially at the later stages. And I've been looking a lot into this menopause stuff too, like Diary of a
Mm.
CEO. He's had a lot of guests on talking about that.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Not very
Oh.
wide. It's just now starting to blow up. But during menopause from 45 to 55, the divorce rate skyrockets in percentage. It blows up. The divorce rate, depression, and suicides have the highest percentage of suicides between the age of 45 to 55 because of menopause. Like you're physically changing, and yeah. So a lot of women get divorced because they're like, you know what? This ain't working for me anymore. It's
Yeah. It's like,
like
yeah, I
I
guess it's
mean,
another form of waking up, in terms of like what's not aligned, like what doesn't feel it's not for me anymore.
42% of a woman's life is her reproductive system is not either before puberty and then menopause and on. 42% of our lives, our reproductive systems are not active, which drastically affects us. My face looks like I aged 10 years in the last 2. I mean, that's just one of 100 symptoms and counting. It's
I mean, I don't see that, but
well, you should have seen me 10 years ago. I mean, oh my gosh, what I would do to have my 40-year-old face back. Like,
you are so beautiful.
oh,
Like,
thank
no,
you.
yeah, come on,
I tell
come on
everybody you're
now.
your own worst critic because we are, you know.
You know what? I wonder, just like very like brief. I wonder if that Chiron as well, also that link, because that Chiron for you is in the first house. So it's also maybe like it's struggling with appearance and things like that, and the stories that you tell yourself in that way as well, and noticing like how that can block you.
Yeah, see, I don't feel bad about it. Like, I really enjoy when I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh, you look cute today. You know what I mean? I really enjoy that. But
Okay, I love that.
at the same time, like, if I don't look good, like, I don't harp on it. You know what I mean? Or like, and I care what other people think, but nowhere near as much as most people do. Does
Yeah,
that make sense?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That I mean, I guess my Chiron might make me feel like that a little bit. But I tell you what, on the flip side, when I look in the mirror and I do like the way I look, boy, is that a booster, a confidence booster. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe everybody's Chiron is like, yeah, there it's difficult on one side, but maybe we should like kind of look at what the other side of the coin looks
Whether
like.
the healing when the healing comes in, we want to catch that wave of it.
Yes, like when you do force yourself to talk and use your voice.
Yeah, it's like it's really, when I'm doing it, it feels so amazing.
Right,
A
that's
bit,
what
I,
I'm
I guess it's like, yeah, but it's just for me personally, it's just catching myself the other side of that. It's just awareness is everything, isn't it? And being able to
yeah.
start consciously noticing your unconscious thought, the thoughts that used to be unconscious, and now you're kind of waking up to them.
Do you tell people
Um,
that when you're talking about their Chiron? I would say, look, instead of concentrating on the side of the coin that's like, oh, this is what's so hard for me, concentrate on the side of the coin and just keep that in your front vision of, oh, when
mm.
I do overcome that, look, this is what I get. I get that dopamine hit. Oh, it feels so good when I force myself to do the thing. You know what I mean?
And the more you do it, the more you lean into your Chiron as well, is that you start kind of collating all of this proof, all of this evidence that, that kind of proves that your Chiron, like, or whatever it is, it's just, it's that wounding. It's not to be dismissed in any way. It's there for a reason. But the more that you lean into it, you start gaining all of this evidence of like how like so necessary it is to lean into it, because all of this healing comes from it. So it's like, okay, I see you, but I'm going again. Like, I'm leaning into it again.
Yeah. And then, like, after you learn and grow from that, it's like going back to the school analogy. You did all the hard work. You passed all your classes. You did the hard test and the studying and the all this and that. And when you walk on the stage and you get handed that degree or that diploma, you're just like, yes, it's the greatest feeling in the world, right? So I want to thank you for coming on the show. And anybody that would like to get a hold of you, you gave us your Instagram handle and your website. Your website is the
Yes.
same, right?
Yeah. Scorpionmooncoach.co.uk.
Okay. And I have two questions that I like to ask all my guests at the end of an interview. And the
Oh,
first,
okay.
yeah. And the first one is, what do you
Mhm.
think the meaning of life is?
Oh my God. I think we're here to grow. I think we're here to experience the highs and lows, of being, of what it means to be human. But I think ultimately it's here to grow, and also that we grow the most within our relationships and how deeply important they are to like the human experience. That answers the question.
Yes. Yeah. It's all about the relationships. I feel like that's
Mm,
the only thing you can really take with you besides your
yeah.
growth. I mean, all the money and all the stuff stays here, but yeah.
Hmm.
And the second question is, if you had one piece of profound advice that you could leave our listeners and viewers, potentially life changing, what would that be?
To discover your birth chart, to like to just go now and have a look and start to see what your sun, moon, and rising is, and know that it is a map of your soul. It's a map of your where your soul wants you to grow this lifetime. And I really believe, the more I feel this more and more, that like you do hear things for a reason. Like, you're drawn to podcasts, or the odd YouTube video which pops up out of nowhere. Like, there's these messages and things that you're being led towards all the time, and it's to trust the weird and wonderful, like the synchronicities, and like to follow the breadcrumbs of that. Yeah, did that? I don't know. I kind of went off on a
Yes. No,
tangent.
you
Yeah.
didn't. No, yeah, that I like that answer. Know thyself and for the maximum amount of personal growth. And to know
Yes.
yourself, a good start is to have your birth chart pulled up because it might even tell you some things that you kind of knew deep down inside, but it brings them to the surface and you're like, oh, that's so right. Yeah, I do
Yes.
just I am
Yes.
like that. Yeah. So I love that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next time, guys. Bye.